Welcome to Destination Dive. I'm Kerry Sanders. In this episode from Key West and the dry Tortugas, where the crystal waters look like they were filtered through pure attitude, glassy, glamorous, and absolutely unapologetic, we discover the wreck known as the poor man's Titanic. Even veteran divers here are like, where? Then, with reverence, we'll join a National Park Service diver who found a lost underwater cemetery. And finally, a surprise. Who knew divers are still finding treasure like this coming from the wreck of the Atocha 4 centuries ago? But first up, let's get in the water and go deep. Key West is perhaps best known for its sunsets and laid-back lifestyle. But off the coast here, you'll also find yourself at the gateway to some of the most accessible and spectacular diving in the world. We're here in Key West at Captain Hook's with Max Ebel. Why don't you take me through what you think are the #1 spots to go diving?
Oh, this is too easy, right? So in Key West specifically, right, the Vandenburg and the Cayman Salvage Master shipwrecks, those are the 2 best spots, I think, in the entire Lower Keys.
The General Hoyt S. Vandenburg is a monumental and memorable dive. It is one of the premier artificial reefs, not just in Florida, but globally.
Why do you put this at the top of your list? What's special about it?
What isn't special about it would be the better question, right? So the entire ship is, 1.5, almost 2 football fields long. It's almost as tall as the Statue of Liberty. It's got this amazing history of being involved with all the Apollo, Mercury, and Gemini missions tracking, space exploration.
So you get down there, you're diving with all of that knowledge in the back of your mind. What's going through your sort of like imagination?
What's going through my mind is all the people that have probably been on that wreck, right? Because it started out its life as like a troop transport and refugee escort. So all the amazing stories that have probably come across, all the people that ended up on Ellis Island, all the people that started a new life in the States just because that ship was available to them.
Christened in 1943, she was in service and then in reserve to the U.S. military until 2009. The Vandenburg purposely sunk off Key West, now one of the largest artificial reefs in the world.
Take me down there to what we might see.
We've had everything on that. I mean, and when I say everything, just about everything that we can think of. There's been sightings of whale sharks, manta rays. I personally had a very awesome experience with a manta ray on that a couple of years ago where the manta ray just hung out with us for the majority of the dive, probably 12 feet wide, right? And it just hung out with us, right? It's a perfectly clear day, no current, just an absolutely amazing experience.
The Vandenburg, as well as Max's other suggestion, the Cayman Salvage Master, both sit deep, 90 to 140 feet down.
New diver, is this a challenge?
This would probably be a bit outside for a brand new diver. Due to the depth profile on the Vandenburg, which we can exceed 100 feet on that, and sometimes we can get a little bit of current on that thing too. It may not be the best one for a brand new diver.
For the newer diver, something to work up to. Meantime, the Adalade Baker sits just 20 feet down, a 3-masted, iron-rigged, iron-hulled ship that went down near Coffin's Patch in 1889. So long ago, the growth on what remains is abundant. Diving wrecks, shallow or deep. A special view into these sunken time capsules where history, mystery, and the quiet pulse of the deep all converge. The departure from Key West to the wreck of the SS Valbanera requires careful calculation. We head out as the sun is rising. The wreck sits 42 miles from the United States' southernmost point, Key West. She sank in shallow waters where currents are strong. A safe dive here must be timed to the slack tide. In 1919, the ship, which sits in 30 feet deep water today, was carrying at least 488 passengers and crew. It was to be a routine voyage from Barcelona with several stops in Spain to pick up more passengers. Those who boarded in the Canary Islands were escaping a post-World War I severe economic collapse. After crossing the Atlantic Ocean, some passengers got off in Puerto Rico and others in Santiago de Cuba. But for most, the chosen destination on this 40-day voyage was Cuba's prosperous capital. But with a powerful hurricane approaching, the portmaster closed the Havana harbor. The captain raced the 400-foot-long steamer in search of deep open waters, but he hit a shoal. And in those shallow waters, the hurricane capsized the vessel. Newspapers detailed the tragedy. Everyone on board drowned. Not a single body ever recovered.
Can you blame the captain for what happened, or is this just too much loss to really know?
I certainly wouldn't blame him. He was doing the best that he could in the situation that he found himself. I think he just didn't have all the information that he might know to be able to pass safely through the Keys, and ultimately he was so close to nearly saving the vessel.
Matt Lawrence is an underwater archaeologist with the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration.
Valbanera is only a couple hundred yards away from deep water that would have allowed it to pass into the Gulf and probably would have survived the storm. So it was a very close thing.
The difference between shallow and deep water means what?
The difference ultimately means where the vessel sank, because with those kind of hurricane conditions, the strong waves and all that sort of stuff, it was cast onto the shallow shoals there and did not have any way to get off, and it was battered.
Matt's been studying the Valbanera for more than 3 years, a wreck often called the poor man's Titanic, because those on board were poor immigrants in search of a new life. And the names of those who died, who perished, immigrants, not really the type of moneyed people who really had their stories told.
That's exactly why I'm interested in it, because we really don't get to see into these people's lives except through this tragic incident. And so Valbanera allows us to kind of explore their history and learn about why they might be traveling across the Atlantic. And so this incident, while disastrous, does allow us to look into history in a way that we otherwise would not.
Diving here comes with reverence and respect. The death toll here, at close to 500, is among the top 50 all-time recorded maritime disasters.
It looked like I was able to swim through where I would have thought maybe the anchor would come out.
Yes, right at the bow, you're absolutely looking at where the hawse pipe, where the anchor passes through.
You cannot help but imagine the chaos and panic of those who had taken this voyage, each with hopes and dreams of starting a new life. Among those diving with us, master diver Amy Arnold, who had never been here before.
One of the coolest things was getting to watch everyone else dive in it too. We all had a shared experience, and I think one of my biggest takeaways was watching our exhalation bubbles. Because our exhalation bubbles were going through the wreck and going through all the nooks and crannies, and it was like the wreck itself was breathing again. So that was really, really exciting to me, that we're breathing new life into this old wreck.
Just think, September 1919, this was a maelstrom, just a horrific situation with the waves crashing over this area, taking the steamship down.
Couldn't have more of a contrast to what we see now.
Certainly not.
The Valbanera, an underwater memorial to hundreds of lost lives, but lost to history no more. Fort Jefferson, located in the Dry Tortugas National Park, an impressive monument to one-time military engineering and perseverance. As you'll see in a moment, this military installation defines outpost. That's because in the mid-1800s, the Army began building this fort in the middle of nowhere, 68 miles from Key West, Florida, a tiny spit of land believed by some Navy officers to be perfectly positioned to intercept pirates. Eventually, the huge fort was turned into a Union Army prison. More than 16 million bricks, some shipped all the way from Boston. That's 1,400 plus miles away. Spanning 16 acres, Fort Jefferson has withstood countless hurricane direct hits. The most famous Fort Jefferson prisoner, a doctor.
Samuel Mudd, he was a prisoner here.
He was. So he was the physician who set John Wilkes Booth's leg and was imprisoned as a Lincoln conspirator and sent here for a life sentence. However, he didn't actually serve it out.
And because of that, we have an expression today, which is...
Getting your name dragged through the mud.
Your name is Mudd.
Your name is Mudd.
Josh Morano spent a career in the U.S. military.
It was originally designed to be a second round of fortification.
He now has a unique job with the National Park Service. He's an archaeologist. His specialty? Underwater archaeology. Which brings us to a flight he'd taken to Fort Jefferson on a seaplane years before he even joined the Park Service.
As we were flying over the fort, they kind of took a different route than they usually do. They kind of swung wide. And I'm an archaeologist. We always are critiqued for looking at our feet, looking at the ground. And in this case, I'm looking at the water. And I saw a pattern in the water that didn't make sense to me. And that was something that I learned very early on as an archaeologist, is if there's a pattern in nature, it's worth a second look.
Fast forward almost a decade.
Still got 0.15 nautical miles.
Josh and the Park Service reviewed historical records and discovered out here in the vastness of the ocean, there was once an island, and on it stood a hospital.
It used to be an island from previous to the 1700s all the way up until, oh, there it is. You see the foundations out there? They pop out, don't they? So yeah, it was an island up until the 1930s. A hurricane in the early 1900s kind of took a lot of the vegetation. That ended up leading to exacerbated erosion. You got the foundations off the bow.
We joined Josh as he took us first to those coral-encrusted hospital foundations. That was the first confirmation of his hunch, that the symmetrical nature of what he'd seen was in fact man-made. But then he and another diver, a park intern, found something they did not expect.
And it was actually an intern who was with us at the time, spotted something that she thought was another foundation, but as I swam up to it, I seen the shape and the size, and I knew immediately it wasn't a foundation, it was a headstone.
A headstone, like what you find in a cemetery.
What did you think at that moment when you came upon that?
I could not believe that there was something from that time period on an island that had submerged almost 100 years ago, that something like that was still there.
On our dive, Josh let me clear some sediment and trace the inscription.
So the very first headstone that we found, it was inscribed with a name. It was John Greer, also had a date, November 5th, 1861.
Park Service researchers now believe there may be as many as 100 submerged graves here. Another confirmed burial here shows the name Jasper Belding. Jasper Belding's brother came from New York to bury his sibling. Remarkably, the Park Service and a distant member of the Belding family have since connected.
I was shocked. He's my great-great-uncle. I have a master's in history, and I taught history for a while. So history is very important to me. And to be actually a part of it through this relation is just amazing. It's just very interesting, and it just adds more to our family history.
A lost graveyard, now uncovered by a diver who allowed his ceaseless curiosity to lead him to what would otherwise have been lost to history.
You not only discovered this, but now you get a chance to share it with people. I mean, how do you feel about that honor?
I feel that it is an honor and it is a duty. As a veteran of the United States military myself, it's a duty to preserve the stories of the people who served here. And this is a small part of that.
The story begins on September 6, 1622. The Spanish galleon Nuestra Señora de Atocha was the rear guard of a Spanish fleet leaving Havana, Cuba. She was struck by a massive hurricane in the Florida Straits. Of the 265 souls on board, only 5 survived. Remarkably, they had the strength to cling to the mizzenmast. The Atocha sank in about 55 feet of water, taking a massive fortune to the bottom. For more than 300 years, the wreck remained lost, mostly forgotten. But not to a dreamer named Mel Fisher, a chicken rancher turned dive shop owner who was so into diving, he invented his own dive helmet at age 11. It was all a fanciful waste of time, until it wasn't.
In the past 2 days, over 200 silver bars, valued at an average of $75,000 apiece, were hauled to the surface.
July 20, 1985, divers hit the mother lode.
The find was beyond any treasure hunter's wildest imagination.
A mind-boggling value in treasures, some, like gold bars and emeralds, on display in Key West at the Mel Fisher Maritime Museum.
What is the estimated value of what was on board the ships that has recovered?
It was estimated at the time that it was recovered, when the mother lode was discovered, that it was about $500 million.
$500 million with a B.
With a billion, yes.
Silver and gold from Peru, emeralds from Colombia. So as not to lose what they found, salvage divers would stash the jewels in their masks before surfacing. But the find of a lifetime also sparked a war. Who legally had claim to what had been found?
After he finds the treasure, who does he hear from?
The government, the state of Florida, they want it.
They want it.
They wanted it all.
And Mel Fisher says?
He was prepared to give them 35%, and they said no.
And so it goes all the way to the Supreme Court?
Yes, there were many court situations, battles back and forth. Ultimately, the Supreme Court says finders keepers, and so he got to keep it all.
But even with that victory, there was a huge cost.
Looking for gold in this particular case had a real human cost.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He lost his son?
Yes.
And?
Daughter-in-law.
And?
And another diver. Yeah.
So there are real costs, those emotional costs that you probably never get over.
Oh, no.
Mel Fisher died 13 years after he found the Atocha, part of a 29-ship fleet. 5 miles away, the Santa Margarita, also laden with gold and silver, but valued far less than the Atocha. That ship's bounties included archaeological riches, too.
Tell me what that is.
The biggest surprise to those who've come to the Keys for recreational dives? To learn that there are still dive teams out there diving the wreck site, still pulling up artifacts from the 1600s.
Finding history like this is unreal.
Vince Trotta was part of the early dive teams who found the riches.
When you saw that glint underwater, the treasure, do you remember the feeling in your heart?
Yeah, it's indescribable, really. You know, to be able to find, and it's not just the glint of the gold. It's I had more pleasure finding a lot of the artifacts.
Artifacts, emeralds, silver, and gold. So much on display at the museum. Experts say there may be a quarter of the treasure still out there.
You want to still be out there?
Yeah, it's a bug. It's more the search. It's the adventure. The adventure's the goal.
A goal that Vince, the late Mel Fisher, and others say drives their essence. Don't die with a dream, die with a story. Every dive is a story to tell. I'm Kerry Sanders with underwater cameraman and executive producer Mike Zimmer. Thanks for joining us on Destination Dive.